Isaiah 14:10. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become as weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and thy noise of thy vows. The worms is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. And worms represent decay. And America's and the West's grip on the world is decaying. All right, that grievous wound is being laid under them. Call halal Yahweh by Shem Awashai, by Shem Rakar Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors to the elder bishops. Salutations to all our fellow laborers who are doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird among the heathen, that look like the heathen. And to the Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone. And without any further ado, Kim Iverson of The Hill.
Yeah, what's on your radar?
Well, Russia and China issued a joint statement declaring a friendship between the two nations that knows no limits, that directly challenges the United States as the global power, criticizes the expansion of NATO and other military alliances, as well as points the finger at the U.S. for using excuses of spreading democracy in order to engage in hostile actions. They basically said in this statement that the once weaker kids on the block are now bigger and stronger and won't take the West crap anymore. So we're going to go over some sections of this 12-page statement. And while we do, remember that this was issued on February 4th.
Just want to interject real quick, because you see it says the list that she has to put check marks on. At the end of the U.S. hegemony, don't weaponize democracy and peace and coordination. And basically, through hiding behind democracy, they've dealt nothing but treacherously with all the other nations and all the other people, bombing, killing, demonizing leaders, replacing them with their own puppet leaders and things of that nature. So this is Isaiah 33:1, and it reads, Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. And when thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. And that's what you're seeing now, is because Russia is dealing treacherously now with America. All right, the way America has dealt treacherously with everyone else.
20 days before Russia invaded Ukraine. No one really paid attention to this document when it was released. They just figured Russia and China were posturing and pretending to be all big and powerful. But don't worry, they're all bark, no bite. They're still too small, they claimed. And then the invasion happened. The West attempted sanctions on Russia and tried to cut them off from the world. And I've argued that all it really did was speed up the transition away from one global currency and one global power towards the multipolar world order Russia and China declared was coming only a month ago. You see, people...
Now this is a race to get to the MOTB, because China's digital system, which Russia is linked into, is already set up and running. All right. And the West is still trying to get it together because the infrastructure is here in America for it, and it's already being used in some of the West controlled countries, NATO being meaning the NATO controlled countries, but they still haven't made it go global with their system yet. So they're behind. All right, they're behind. So this is a battle for who's going to control the new digital currency, which is where everyone wants to go, so they have complete and total control of the people. But the Lord is going to interject. That's never going to happen. But just as they begin to do it, so what's going to come in the near future is what you read in Revelation, the 13th chapter, around the 16th to the 18th verse. The MOTB, and that's next, because that's going to come out of this whole conflict between Russia and NATO and Russia's allies.
Have been arguing that there's no way China's SIPs could replace SWIFT. They say their currency is too weak or unstable to replace the dollar as the global currency. But maybe the goal, at least this first step goal, isn't to replace these systems, but but rival them instead, like MasterCard to Visa or Pepsi to Coke. Next thing you know, they might be Facebook to MySpace. Start off the smaller of the two, only to clobber them a few years down the line. After all, one part of this document declares the countries are intending to form a Russia, India, China, East Asia cooperation that will include a variety of sectors such as trade and defense. Last I checked, China and India in particular have a lot of people, meaning trade will be very lucrative and defense very robust. So let's go over some of the aspects of this document. It's called Joint Statement of the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China on the International Relations Entering a New Era and the Global Sustainable Development. Quite a mouthful. They start off by saying, quote, a trend has emerged towards redistribution of power in the world, and the international community is showing a growing demand for leadership aiming at...
You see that? The international community is sick and tired of the hegemony of United States and the West. You can see that first check mark has been checked off.
Peaceful and gradual development. Some actors representing but the minority on the international scale continue to advocate unilateral approaches to addressing international issues and resorts to force. They interfere in the internal affairs of other states, infringing their legitimate rights and interests. They say this is hampering the development of progress in mankind. Now, before we go on, the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China are together referred to throughout this document as the sides. So the document goes on to state, the sides believe that certain states, military and political alliances and coalitions seek to obtain directly or indirectly unilateral military advantages to the detriment of the security of others. Wonder who they're talking about. The sides oppose further enlargement of NATO and call on the North Atlantic Alliance to abandon its idealized Cold War approaches. The sides are seriously concerned about the trilateral security partnership between Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom, AUKUS. In particular, their decision to initiate cooperation in the field of nuclear-powered submarines. They say this is increasing the danger of an arms race in the region and poses serious risks of nuclear proliferation. They say the nuclear weapons states should abandon the Cold War mentality and zero-sum games and reduce the role of nuclear weapons in their national security policies. They express concern over the advancement of U.S. plans to develop global missile defense and deploy its elements in various regions in the world and even into outer space, saying they support an international commitment not to be the first to place weapons in space, preventing a space arms race. The document calls out U.S. bioweapons and chemical weapon activities. They call on the United States to accelerate the elimination.
So basically, all in the name of democracy, they arm everything, including, pew, 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 democracy, bang, bang, democracy, and all while, bombing on other places for committing human violations and human rights violations and things of that nature. But at the same time they're doing it, they have the biggest human violations right here in America, especially against the Negro, Latino, and Native American. And the whole world sees it, man. They even call them out on it. All right, just all outright injustices done to these people on a regular basis, if civilly, financially, in every way imaginable, man. All right, this is Ecclesiastes or the Sirach 10:8, and it reads, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So that's what, and one of the main weapons that they've used to do that in modern times and lately has been, over the last 30, 40 years, has been democracy.
Of our stockpile of chemical weapons. Now, regarding democracy, they say there is no one-size-fits-all template to guiding countries in establishing democracy. A nation can choose such forms and methods of implementing democracy that would best suit its particular state based on its social and political system, its historical background, traditions, and unique cultural characteristics. It is only up to the people of the country to decide whether their state is a democratic one, they say. The sides believe that the advocacy of democracy and human rights must not be used to put pressure on other countries. They oppose the abuse of democratic values and interference in the internal affairs of sovereign states under the pretext of protecting democracy and human rights and any attempts to incite divisions and confrontation in the world. Now, they don't only discuss these military and defense issues and point out the U.S., but they also discuss the Russian and China trade partnership they're forming within the Belt and Road Initiative. They call on developed countries to help the developing ones catch up. They talk about investing in sustainable transport and fighting climate change. They also address the origins of COVID, saying that, quote, that ascertaining the origin of the new coronavirus infection is a matter of science. Research on this topic must be based on global knowledge, and that requires cooperation among scientists from all over the world. The sides oppose politicization of these issues.
So basically, you know, the C word has been used to get an angle, to get control over policy, institute new bills and new laws, and just more control. And what they're saying is that it's been very biased toward actual science, because it's been a one-sided deal, and they didn't look at the whole global thing. Is all the other qualified scientists and doctors around the world who had opposing and oppositions to the established thing that was coming out of the West. And so they're seeing there's a problem in that, because when you got legitimate scientists who are completely neutral, saying, well, hold on, we're professionals in what we do, and they're just being ignored. That's a problem, man. And the thing is that the nations of the world are beginning to see America and the West as the issue. All right, here's a video of a meeting that was done among the heathens. I think it's at the UN, and one of the Indian representatives was speaking, and he didn't have very positive words to say about America and the West. So let's let him speak.
Any casualties in a war are the people themselves, and the National Freedom Party is of the view that a negotiated settlement would go a long way in preventing the loss of lives. But the question I want to ask today, Honorable Deputy Speaker, is this. When the people in Palestine are losing their lives, being raped and murdered, there's no cry from anybody, no passion.
None.
When the same thing happens in Syria, we hear nothing.
None.
When the same thing happens in Libya, we hear nothing.
None.
When the same thing happens in Iraq, we hear nothing.
No commercials.
When the Ukrainians are violating the rights of other Ukrainians, particularly in the Donbass region,
In
there's
Donbass.
nobody crying for those people.
None at all.
What is the reason for it? What about India? Why is there nobody in this country raising the concerns of the Indian minorities, of the Christians and the Muslims whose rights are being violated by the Indian government? Nobody in this country is saying anything about it. Now, demilitarization. Stay away from my Russian borders. If you notice what has been happening since 1990, they are coming closer and closer and closer to the Russian border until they will make Russia so weak that Russia will have no other option but to give in to them. That is what it is all about. But who is the root cause of this whole problem? It is clearly the West and the United States of America that is the root cause of all the mayhem and chaos and destruction all over the world. Currently,
Wow.
there is a threat to...
We'll stop it there. But he said it was the America and the West, which is the root of the problem of all these global problems around the whole world. And you notice he said since 1990, the NATO has been moving closer and closer to NATO with the hope and the goal of making Russia so weak that they have to bow down to them. And basically that's what this whole Ukrainian thing is about, because Ukraine, it was the gateway into Russia, and Ukraine was once a part of Russia, and it stopped being a part of Russia in 1991. And all the Russians want is for Ukraine to be a neutral state, where America and other NATO countries can't go in there and put chemical factories or weapons of mass destruction or military batteries or anything in it, and they wouldn't do the same, because you honestly have to be honest with that situation, man. You wouldn't want your oppositions to be posted up at your back gate or at your front gate, and that's pretty much what they're doing. And then you can't do that and then expect someone not to get aggressive in defending or putting preparations to defend themselves when they see a imminent threat. And that's just being, I can't think of any other way to explain it more plainly. All right, let's get one more scripture and wrap this thing up. One. This is Galatians. Oh, not, yeah, 6 and 7. And it reads, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." So if you've reaped rape, robbery, murder, deceit, all in the name of democracy, pew, 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 democracy, grenade, democracy, that's what you're going to reap. Call halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Abishai Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Kwam Yasharala Shalom.